For most of human history, we believed the universe was made for us. The stars were lights hung in the sky. The Earth was the center. We mattered. Then we measured the distance to the nearest star and realized we had been wrong about almost everything. The question is not whether God survived that revelation. The question is whether the word God ever meant what we thought it did. Consider what it must have felt like to live in a world where the cosmos was small, where the dome of stars overhead was just that, a dome, close enough to touch if you could climb high enough, where every sunrise was a gift prepared specifically for your eyes, where every storm, every harvest, every moment of suffering or joy was part of a personal drama, watched over by forces that knew your name. This was not ignorance. This was coherence. The universe made sense because it was the right size, human-sized. The gods lived just beyond the clouds. The dead resided just beneath the soil. Prayer worked because the distance between question and answer was measurable in meters, not light years. And then we started measuring. We discovered that the nearest star is so far away, that light, traveling faster than anything in the universe, takes more than 4 years to reach us. We discovered that our sun is one of hundreds of billions in a galaxy so vast that crossing it at light speed would take 100,000 years. We discovered that our galaxy is one of hundreds of billions more, scattered across distances so immense that the numbers stop meaning anything. The cosmos is not human-sized. It never was. We are pattern-seeking creatures. We look at clouds and see faces. We hear wind in the trees and imagine voices. We experience coincidence and call it fate. This is not a flaw. This is survival. For millions of years, the beings that saw intention in the world, the ones who assumed the rustling grass contained a predator, the ones who read meaning into every shadow, those were the ones who lived long enough to pass on their genes. So we are built to see ourselves as central, built to assume that what happens to us matters on a scale beyond our own experience. When we suffer, we ask why. When we are saved, we ask who. The intuition that the universe cares is wired so deeply into our brains that abandoning it feels like abandoning meaning itself. But intuition is a poor guide to reality. The Earth feels stationary. It doesn't feel like we are spinning at 1,000 miles per hour while simultaneously hurtling around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour. Yet we are. The ground beneath your feet is moving faster than any human technology has ever achieved, and you feel nothing. The stars appear fixed. They seem eternal, painted on the ceiling of night. Yet they are moving too. Vast nuclear furnaces, born and dying across timescales that make human civilizations look like sparks. The patterns we call constellations, the lion, the hunter, the bear, are accidents of perspective. The stars in those patterns are not near each other. They are separated by trillions of miles. They only appear grouped because of where we happen to be standing. For thousands of years, this illusion was complete. The sky wheeled overhead in perfect circles. The sun rose and set with divine regularity. Surely this clockwork had a clockmaker. Surely this order implied intention. And at the center of it all, us, humanity, the reason for everything. Then someone pointed a telescope at Jupiter and saw moons, not circling Earth, circling Jupiter. Suddenly, the heavens were not arranged around us. There were other centers, other systems. The coherence began to fracture, and we kept measuring. A distance to the nearest star was first calculated in 1838. It was not done with a rocket or a spacecraft. It was done with patience and geometry. An astronomer named Friedrich Bessel measured the position of a star called 61 Cygni at opposite ends of Earth's orbit, 6 months apart. The star appeared to shift ever so slightly against the more distant background. That tiny shift, less than an arcsecond, revealed a distance almost incomprehensible at the time. 4 light years. Not 4 years of travel. 4 years for light itself, moving at 300,000 kilometers every second to cross the void. If you could somehow board a beam of light leaving that star today, you would arrive at Earth in the year 2029. If you looked back The light leaving Earth now would show you this moment, frozen in 2025, still catching up. That was one star, the nearest one. In the decades that followed, we measured more. Hundreds of stars, then thousands, then millions. We mapped the structure of our galaxy and discovered it was shaped like a disk, a whirlpool of stars, 200,000 light years across. And we were not at the center. We were out in the suburbs on an unremarkable spiral arm, orbiting a black hole we could not even see. But surely our galaxy was the universe. Surely this vast collection of stars was all there was. In 1924, an astronomer named Edwin Hubble pointed a telescope at a fuzzy patch of light called Andromeda. He measured the light from individual stars inside it and discovered something staggering. Andromeda was not part of our galaxy. It was another galaxy entirely, 2.5 million light years away. The universe was not a single city of stars. It was a cosmos of galaxies, each containing billions of stars, separated by gulfs of empty space larger than anything our ancestors could have dreamed. And we kept measuring.
We discovered that galaxies are not scattered randomly. They cluster into groups. The groups form superclusters. The superclusters stretch across hundreds of millions of light years, forming threads and walls and voids, a cosmic web so large that light from one end takes longer to reach the other than multicellular life has existed on Earth.
We discovered that the universe is expanding, not expanding into something, just expanding. Every galaxy moving away from every other galaxy, carried by the stretching of space itself. If you traced that expansion backward, running the cosmic film in reverse, everything converged to a single point, a beginning. 13.8 billion years ago, the universe was born. Before that, the question may not even make sense. Time itself may have begun in that moment. Now consider what this means for us. For our ancestors, the universe was thousands of years old. The stars were fixed lights close enough to matter, arranged in patterns that told stories. God or gods lived just beyond the visible, close enough to intervene, close enough to care. We now know we live in a universe billions of years old, filled with hundreds of billions of galaxies, each containing hundreds of billions of stars. We are standing on a wet rock orbiting an ordinary yellow star in the outer regions of an ordinary galaxy in an ordinary part of the universe. There is nothing special about our location, nothing privileged about our perspective, and yet we are here, conscious, asking questions. The atoms in your body are not native to Earth. Carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, the elements that make life possible, were forged inside stars that lived and died billions of years ago. When those stars exhausted their fuel, they collapsed and exploded, scattering their enriched cores across space. Those atoms drifted through the void for eons before gravity pulled them together again into new stars, new planets, new possibilities. You are made of recycled starlight. The iron in your blood was forged in a supernova. The calcium in your bones was created in a dying star. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are the cosmos examining itself. Does this make the universe sacred? Or does it mean that sacredness is simply the word we use when we feel awe? If there is a God who created all of this, 100 billion galaxies, each containing 100 billion stars, scattered across a space so vast that light takes billions of years to cross it, then that God is not the God of our ancestors. That God does not live just beyond the clouds. That God does not watch individual sparrows fall. The scale is too large, the indifference too complete. Or perhaps indifference is the wrong word. Perhaps the question itself is wrong. We assume that meaning requires intention, that for something to matter, someone must care. A parent cares for a child. A teacher cares for a student. Care is personal. Care is local. Care operates at human scales. But the universe does not operate at human scales. The sun does not burn because it cares about keeping Earth warm. It burns because hydrogen nuclei are colliding with enough force to overcome their electromagnetic repulsion and fuse into helium. This process will continue for another 5 billion years. When it ends, the sun will expand into a red giant, vaporize Earth's oceans, and eventually collapse into a white dwarf, a cooling ember that will radiate heat for trillions of years until it finally goes dark. None of this requires intention. None of it requires meaning. It simply is. And yet, here we are, in this brief window where conditions are right, asking whether it all means something. Perhaps the mistake is thinking that meaning must come from outside, that it must be handed down by something larger, something eternal, something that was here before us and will remain after we are gone. But meaning is not found. Meaning is made. When you stand under a sky filled with stars, when you contemplate the fact that you are made of elements forged in stellar cores billions of years ago, when you realize that the light entering your eyes left some of those stars before your species even existed, what you feel in that moment is real. The awe is real. The sense of connection is real. The question is not whether a god caused you to feel that. The question is whether the feeling itself is enough. For most of human history, religion provided answers. Not just about God, but about everything. Why the sun rises, why we suffer, where we go when we die. Religion was cosmology, psychology, medicine, and law wrapped together. It gave structure to existence. It made the universe comprehensible. Then we started answering those questions differently. We discovered that the sun rises because the earth rotates. We discovered that suffering has biological and evolutionary explanations. We discovered that death is the cessation of brain function, not the beginning of another journey. One by one, the questions that required divine answers became questions that science could address. And for some, this felt like loss. If the universe does not require a God to function, does it require a God at all? But this is a false choice. The assumption that understanding diminishes wonder is a failure of imagination. Consider the stars again. When our ancestors looked up, they saw gods. They saw heroes and monsters and stories written in fire. They did not know those lights were distant suns. They did not know that light itself had a speed, that space was a thing that could bend, that time was relative. Now we know all of this. We have measured the distances, mapped the motions, understood the physics. Does this make the night sky less meaningful, or does it make it more? We now know that the light entering your eyes right now has been traveling for years, decades, centuries, millennia. We know that some of those stars no longer exist. They have already exploded, collapsed, gone dark, but their light continues to reach us. A message from the past written in photons. We know that the patterns we see are accidents of perspective, that the stars are not arranged for our benefit, that the cosmos is indifferent to whether we see beauty in it. And yet we do. We see beauty. We feel awe. We create meaning where none was given. Perhaps that is the most remarkable thing of all. Not that the universe contains meaning, but that we contain the capacity to create it. Against all odds, on a small planet orbiting an ordinary star, matter has organized itself in such a way that it can contemplate its own existence. Atoms have become conscious. The universe has opened its eyes. If you need a word for that, you might call it miraculous. You might call it divine. Or you might simply call it what it is, an improbable, temporary, utterly contingent arrangement of atoms that will not last, but for now is here, aware, asking questions that may never be answered. The photograph, taken from 6 billion kilometers away, still exists. That pale blue dot suspended in scattered sunlight has not grown larger. We have not become more significant in the cosmic scale. If anything, every new discovery makes us smaller. And yet the feeling remains, the sense that this matters, that we matter. Not because the universe requires us to, but because we are here able to ask whether we matter at all. Perhaps the question was never whether God exists. Perhaps the question was always what we mean when we use that word. If by God we mean a being who watches over us, who answers prayers, who intervenes in human affairs, then the evidence is, at best, ambiguous. The universe appears to operate by laws, not whims. But if by God we mean the sum of everything, the structure that allows atoms to become stars, stars to become planets, planets to become life, life to become consciousness, then God is another name for the universe itself. And we are not separate from it, we are expressions of it. The word doesn't matter. What matters is the recognition that we are part of something larger than ourselves, something ancient, something that will continue long after we are gone. The stars will still burn. The galaxies will still turn. The universe will expand into darkness. And eventually, trillions of years from now, the last stars will flicker and fade. Whether anyone is there to see it, whether anyone remembers that we were here at all, is uncertain. But for now, in this brief window, we are here, conscious, capable of wonder, capable of asking questions that may not have answers. And perhaps that is enough. That